I'm Tom and this is Whisky Shorts. So today I'm carrying on my mini-series looking at the types of casks used in whisky production. This series will take a look at the cask types that are commonly used by whisky distilleries to age their whiskies, and I'll be sharing any terminology that they are associated with and what notes can generally be found in each type. Today we're going to look at the exciting world of sherry casks. So what is sherry? Sherry is a type of fortified wine that is produced in a specific region in southern Spain called the Sherry Triangle. The production of the wine is controlled by the Consuejo Regulador, and in 1981 one of the requirements introduced was around sherry having to be bottled in this region, which is going to be important later on. So there are different types of sherry, all made in slightly different ways and with different flavours. And I'm going to put some links in the description with interesting videos telling you more about this great drink. But one of the things they all have in common is the use of the Solera aging system. This is where casks are stacked on top of each other with the purpose of blending different ages of wine. 20% of the bottom barrel is drawn to become the sherry, and this is replaced from the cask above. This system then repeats to the top layer, at which point the 20% is replaced with this current year's harvest. And this means that some of the Solera casks and the sherry contained within can be very old. So where did the cask come from? Surely all sherry casks come from Soleras. Well, not quite. Although you do see some Solera cask finished whiskies on the market, this is rare, simply for the reason that these casks are prized by the sherry producers and are rarely let go. And in fact, under Scotch whisky regulations, a sherry style cask does not even have to contain sherry from the triangle. A sherry styled fortified wine is good enough. So where did the use of casks in whisky come from? Before sherry was required to be bottled in the Sherry Triangle, it was often shipped to the UK to be blended, and this was done in transport casks. These casks, having travelled across the Channel, found a new lease of life in the whisky industry. And with the advent of the new regulations in 1981 and the decline in popularity in sherry in the UK, the demand for these casks outstripped the supply, and a new industry sprung up, cooperages that season casks specifically for whisky. So a lot of the casks of sherry that we drink today come from this process. A new cask is made from European or American oak. A young sherry is added as a sacrificial liquid to absorb all of the oaky tannins, and after a few months this is decanted. It's used again in up to 3 more barrels before being disposed of due to its now vinegary taste. But the type of sherry that is required by the whisky company is added into the cask and allowed to rest for a period of between a few months to a few years before the sherry is decanted and the cask is shipped over to the UK for use in whisky maturation. This means there is now a steady supply of quality casks to produce our favourite whiskies. I've recently noticed a few distilleries have started mentioning seasoned casks, but I wonder if it's an area where consumers would appreciate more transparency. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Now, as mentioned on my ex-bourbon video, they do use refill sherry casks, and this is done by the same process of reusing casks 1, 2 or 3 times. Although with a sherry, due to the lower ABV having a softer effect on the wood, the drop off between fills is reduced. So a second fill cask is likely to have 50% of the influence that the barrel had been able to impart during the first fill. The influence drops down to 15 to 20% for a third fill, and you can get a 4th fill run out of the cask, though the influence has dropped down to 10%, which you may remember was the amount of influence the ex-bourbon third fill experienced. A sherry will impart different flavours based on the types of sherry used, and I'd recommend getting a range of sherries and doing a tasting with friends. It's a great way of seeing the influence in flavour on your whisky. With a sherry you can expect red fruits, icing sugars and raisins in general, but there is a broad range of flavours to be found. So that brings us to the end of this video. As I said, there are more links in the description should you wish to know more. If you like today's content, please join me for my next video where we'll be looking at the use of port pipes in whisky production. Until then, I've been Tom. This has been Whisky Shorts. Thank you and goodbye.